Welcome back to The Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today because, wow, we have a truly fascinating topic to unpack. We're going to be diving into some incredibly insightful source material that explores the intense and often totally hidden dynamics of a very specific astrological placement, Mars in the 11th house. Now, whether you're a rigorous student of astrology or you're just kind of deeply curious about family psychology and how we push each other to succeed, the behavioral patterns we're looking at today are just universally compelling. We'll be analyzing how the planet of drive and action, yep, Mars, operates when it's dropped right into the sphere of long-term goals, networks, and surprisingly, family achievements. It is a dynamic that creates this really unique, potent blend of high motivation and complex family pressure. So let this question sink in for just a second. Is your family life a hidden competition? I know it's a bold, maybe even slightly uncomfortable question to ask yourself, but it sets the perfect stage for our reflective journey today. When we talk about the drive for success within a family unit, it rarely looks like some dramatic, cutthroat rivalry you'd see in a movie. Instead, it kind of weaves itself right into the everyday fabric of our homes. It hides in our casual conversations, those dinner time questions, and the subtle ways we encourage the people we love the most. Section 1. Mars in the 11th house. Unpacking the drive for success. Okay, let's dive into this. To really understand this dynamic, we first have to establish the baseline behavior of the placement. Mars, as we know, is the planet of energy, ambition, and warfare. The 11th house, that's the house of aspirations, community, and the future. So when you smash those together, especially in a family context, that competitive, forward-looking energy gets funneled directly into the achievements of the household. Under this specific placement, a parent can become intensely, and I mean intensely, invested in their child's achievements. You don't just see your child growing up, you literally see a trajectory. And on that trajectory, milestones, awards, and accomplishments are treated as the ultimate, indisputable measures of progress. Getting an A on a test, winning the soccer tournament, securing the lead in the school play. These aren't just cute, nice moments, they're actual data points of success. You start to view your family's journey through this lens of tangible metrics, measuring love and potential through the accumulation of external validations. Moving on to Section 2. From encouragement to pressure when pushing goes too far. Look, no one wakes up and actively decides to be an overbearing parent, right? It almost always starts from a place of love and a genuine, deeply held belief in a child's potential. But with this Mars energy, that line blurs really quickly. What's really interesting about this is how easily you can slip from supportive cheering into subtle pressure when you firmly believe your kid is capable of more. You start with something like, "Great job, I am so proud of you." But then it kind of morphs into, "Great job, but I know you could have scored 2 goals if you really pushed yourself." The encouragement becomes conditional. The child hears the praise, for sure, but they also hear the underlying message. You did well, but you haven't reached your ceiling yet. Keep climbing. The Mars energy essentially turns the parent into a coach who never, ever turns off the clock. And so, what happens when that climb inevitably stalls out? Well, a strong desire to see your child succeed can actually make you deeply impatient when things don't go perfectly. Under this placement, there's a very specific intolerance for delays, mistakes, or perceived wasted potential. If a kid wants to quit piano just to relax, or if they struggle with a new math concept, the Mars in the 11th house parent doesn't just see a normal hurdle, they see a frustrating detour from the master plan. The impatience isn't necessarily because the parent is angry, but because their ambition for the child is literally moving at 100 miles an hour, while the child is just moving at their own natural human pace. Which leads right into a really dangerous trap, equating resilience and strength with constant achievement, encouraging your child to keep pushing even when rest is needed. Think about the immense good intentions here. You absolutely want your child to be strong, to have grit, to go out and conquer the world. But this unconscious equation creates a scenario where resting is suddenly viewed as a weakness or a loss of momentum. By demanding constant forward motion to prove their resilience, you might inadvertently deny your child the necessary downtime they need just to be a kid, to recharge, and to figure out who they actually are outside of their achievements. Section 3. The child's perspective. Feeling the weight of expectations. I want us to deliberately slow our pacing down here for a second. We've looked at the parent's drive. Let's actually step into the child's shoes. What does it feel like to be on the receiving end of this intense, aspirational energy? Well, children absolutely feel the motivation of your expectations. It can drive them to do incredible things. But they often internalize a very unhealthy takeaway. They learn that performance matters more than the process.
They start to believe deep down that their value in the family system is directly tied to the medal they bring home, rather than the joy they experienced playing the game or the hard work they put into studying. The end result completely eclipses the journey of learning.
And how exactly is that message reinforced? Mostly through comparisons. Under this Mars placement, a parent might frequently compare effort, discipline, or results in 3 distinct ways. First, with siblings. Why can't you focus on your homework like your sister does? Second, with peers. Did you see how hard Tommy was running on the field today? And third, and sometimes this is the most intense one, with your past self. Well, when I was your age, I already had a part-time job and was captain at the debate team. These everyday comparisons construct a really subtle but incredibly pervasive environment of rivalry right inside the home. And this brilliantly illustrates how casual family interactions completely transform. Collaborative discussions turn into competitive tones. Casual family talks about education, sports, careers, or future success stop being open-ended brainstorming sessions. Instead, they quietly turn into contests. A conversation about college choices isn't about where the child is going to be happiest. It becomes this strategic meeting about prestige and rankings. The tone shifts from, what do you want to explore, to how are you going to win? Section 4. Your hidden motivations. What's really driving the push? Now, if you are recognizing yourself in any of this, we need to peel back the psychological layers just a little bit. Why is this drive so overpowering? What is the actual engine behind this specific Mars placement? Often, it really comes down to unfulfilled personal ambitions resurfacing through your child's excellence. When your child begins to excel, or honestly, even just participate in areas that once held immense personal significance to you, it can trigger your own unresolved aspirations. Maybe you desperately wanted to be a professional dancer, but you couldn't. Now your daughter is in ballet, and suddenly, completely without meaning to, her recitals carry the heavy emotional weight of your deferred dreams. You aren't just cheering for her, you are, on a subconscious level, trying to win the race that you had to drop out of. So the crucial point is understanding the definition of rivalry in this specific astrological context. It's a competition that exists beneath the surface, through constant comparison, rather than in open arguments or conflict. This is so important. You might be listening to this thinking, but we never yell. My house is completely peaceful. But rivalry here isn't a screaming match. It's a quiet underlying current. It's the silent thermometer of success, constantly taking the temperature of the room. It's this heavy atmosphere of expectation that everyone feels, but no one explicitly names. Which brings us to our final section, the deeper lesson, redefining success. We have thoroughly analyzed the problem and the mechanisms of this placement. But there is a profound philosophical pivot here, a real resolution to this intense Mars energy. Growth and competition are not the same thing. Let that sink in for a moment. Growth and competition are not the same thing. It is such a remarkably simple sentence, but when you really reflect on it, it completely shatters the illusion we've been talking about. In our modern world, we frequently conflate the two. We just assume if we're beating someone else, we are growing. But true growth is entirely internal. It is about expanding capability, expanding understanding and joy, entirely independent of a leaderboard. And this leads us to a really beautiful recalibration. Your greatest success, the true highest manifestation of this placement's energy, comes from helping your child develop their own unique strengths without turning life into a contest of who achieves more. It means taking all that amazing Mars drive, all that visionary 11th house energy, and consciously redirecting it from external metrics to internal development. It's making that vital shift from being their demanding coach to being their greatest, most unconditional champion. I want to leave you with a final, powerful thought. The next time you feel that surge of ambition for someone you love, the next time you're tempted to compare their progress or push them just a little too hard when they're obviously tired, ask yourself this: are you helping them grow, or are you trying to win? It is a question that requires total, brutal honesty, but answering it truthfully has the power to absolutely transform the entire dynamic of your family. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating explainer material with me today. Keep asking the deep questions, and I will see you next time.